room for this one thing. Vantage got me cruising it on. All the roof and the pain that it causing. They ran through with the food that they own. Gang-ish, never moving with caution. Too damn sick, no assuming my role. Bandwidth, EQ and distortion. Bandage through the wounds of my soul. Say again, no room for this haunting. Vantage got me cruising it on. All the roof and the pain that it causing. They ran through with the food that they own. Gang-ish, never moving with caution. Too damn sick, no assuming my role. Bandwidth, EQ and distortion. Bandage through the wounds of my soul. Say again, no room for this haunting. Vantage got me cruising it on. All the roof and the pain that it causing. They ran through with the food that they own.
Okay, so I just got back from the gym. I'm pushing a little bit harder this week because for the next 3 weeks, I'll be traveling to China and Japan. And so I want to squeeze in as much as I can this week because I don't really know when I'll get access to a gym again. I could do some bodyweight exercises like push-ups and squats, but besides that, I won't have access to actual weights. Now it's time to get back and actually start my day. So I got some extra time this morning before work, so I'm just going to tighten up my itinerary for Japan and just make sure that I'm not missing any other spots to go to. This is actually my first time out of the country, and so I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything important. And I'm not someone who plans a full itinerary wherever I go. I think for this first time, since I'm actually going out of the country, I think it'll be pretty important to make sure I hit all those spots. So today I'm going to spend some time investigating performance issues with our script. And the script is pretty important because it runs every time a developer tries to merge in their code. And what it does is basically analyzes their code and checks if there's any security issues with their code. In the worst case, the script took over 20 minutes and prevented a developer to merge in their code. So now I'm taking a closer look to see what's going on behind the hood and really try to understand what the script is doing. And this code actually predates me. It's about 5 years old now. And so I'm really relying on the debugger to step in and see what's actually going on behind the scenes. So over a few years as a software engineer, I've learned a few things about, fixing the performance of code. One big thing is reducing the calls to APIs. You can basically do this by finding redundant calls and consolidating all the calls into one call, whether that's bulkifying it or passing in necessary information. Another thing to help with performance is actually doing multi-processing. And what that means is breaking down the job into smaller jobs and then running all those jobs at the same time in parallel. That helps a lot, especially if you have a really big task at hand. And lastly, the most simplest way that I find to improve performance is to implement a cache of some sort. That simply means to implement a hash map to store the data in so that you don't have to do the computation again, which could be expensive. I've always wanted to fix performance issues because I think it's really valuable and it really adds to your portfolio or your resume because, it's pretty cool to see someone fixing, an API call that takes, 50 milliseconds to half of that, 25 milliseconds. It's a pretty drastic performance gain. And I actually think it's pretty cool to optimize code. So yeah, I'm going to spend some time today writing up this doc, documenting my findings and ways to improve. And that'll be a majority of my work today. Okay, so it's the first time testing out the Starlink. I have the Starlink plugged in over here, and then on my laptop over here. All I need to do is to actually sync up my phone and set up Starlink, and I think we should be good to go. Let's see how it works. So I connected the Starlink to my phone, and I think all that's left is to do some alignments so that Starlink has the right connection to the satellites above. Actually, it's taking a while. I wonder if I should remove my Starlink to a different location. Okay, so it was taking a while for the Starlink to connect to the satellites, and it said that the Starlink should have a clear view of the sky. So I actually had to move it away from the covered area here and put it more in the sun. So it looks like the Starlink just finished connecting, but it says that it's obstructed. I don't know if you can see there. So I'm gonna have to move it and see what's the best position it should be in. Okay, so I finally got the Starlink up and it's running. I'm actually connected with my work laptop to the Starlink. So I ran a speed test on my phone and it gave me 134 megabytes of download speed and 11 megabytes of upload speed. I think that's not bad considering it's the Starlink Mini compared to the standard Starlink, which would give you 200 plus megabytes of download speed. But I think working off of 134 is not that bad, and it's still pretty nice and I can still work with that. This evening, I'm going to spend some time working on my personal project. I recently switched from Buffy to Prime View as my UI library components because I found that Buffy added a lot of, unnecessary margin and padding to some components, as well as some behavior that I didn't like. And so when I switched to Prime View, I found that a lot of their components were really, easy to use and really simple. And if I wanted to add something, I could add on top of their existing components compared to what I did with Buffy. I had to override a lot of their component styling, and it was a lot of headache just to get that done. So hopefully the Prime View components work well with this project, because I've been spending a lot of time just on the UI, and I know that it can be really time consuming if you're really just focused on styling and UI. And I think it's pretty important for me because I'm using my own product, and so I want it to be really intuitive and easy to work with. And so yeah, that's something that I'll be working on this evening. So I just want to give you guys an example of what I'm talking about. So for example, in Buffy, we had this number input. If I go beyond the max here, there's a lot of side effects like adding this, error icon as well as this error message at the bottom. And that's something that I didn't really want at the time. Compared to Prime View, if you go over the maximum, so let's say 101, it automatically converts the 101 to the max value, which is 100, rather than having a lot of side effects like adding the error messages and the error icon. And so I wanted to keep it simple. I didn't want to override the behavior such as, removing this error message. And there's some cool stuff that Prime View has as well. Something that I found pretty cool was the floating labels. So you can see here, it's floating over the input, or it floats inside the input, and here floats on the border of the input label. So yeah, there's a lot of cool things that you could do here with Prime View.